Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
So this just happened today, so I'm shaken up from it. I have a wonderful service dog named Frankie. She helps me with my anxiety and PTSD so that I can go into stores and shop. I have an ID for her that shows she belongs to me. So I'm shopping today looking for some clothes when I see this boy, the entitled kid of the story, running under the clothing racks and through the aisle. This gives me anxiety and Frankie alerts me by jumping on my leg. I reward her and we move on. The entitled kid runs right in front of us and spots Frankie. "Puppy," he says. Goes to pet Frankie and I step in between him, putting my hand to block him. "I'm sorry, but you can't pet her because she's working. See?" I motion to Frankie's vest that clearly states that she's a service dog, do not pet. The entitled kid starts crying and runs under the clothing racks. I try to calm myself down and I continue shopping. I then hear stomping feet coming into the aisle I'm in. And I turn around to see the entitled mother coming towards me, the entitled kid in tow. "How dare you tell my little angel that he can't pet your dog? Let my son pet your dog." "I'm sorry ma'am, my dog is working right now, your son cannot pet her." "I don't care." She then comes up to me and grabs Frankie's leash from me. Frankie has been trained to follow a stranger in case of medical emergencies, so she just goes with the woman. Easy. This is an emergency call for Frankie to come right to my side. Frankie slips her harness and runs to me. I pick Frankie up, crying now. "How dare you? I am calling the police on you, saying you stole that dog from me." She then blocks me from leaving and calls the police. The police arrive and she starts saying that Frankie is her service dog and I stole her. I start having a panic attack and Frankie alerts me and lays on my chest to calm me down. The officer comes over and helps me calm down. When I came out of the panic attack, I explained what happened and showed the ID I have for Frankie, my ID to prove it's me. The entitled mother throws Frankie's harness and starts running away. The officer grabs her and arrests her for pet theft, assault of an officer, and verbal harassment. Frankie is okay and I'm okay as well. I took my emergency medication and I'm doing better now. Thank you for reading. Please treat service animals like medical equipment and do not try to pet them. Frankie and I both say thank you so much for the kind words and encouragement. Frankie has gotten lots of extra pets and treats from you all. Here is sunny old Perth, capital Western Australia. We've been very lucky when it comes to the plague. We've only just cracked 1,000 cases. Had only 9 deaths, thanks in part to the Premier ordering a hard border closure through the worst of the initial outbreaks. We were even able to go for 6 months without a case of community transmission, at least until earlier this year, with most new cases being reported by people coming into the state from interstate or overseas. Only twice since the initial outbreak have we had to go into lockdown, first for 5 and most recently 3 days. My older lad was pissed as he has now had both 18th and 19th birthday ruined by lockdowns. The last one finished at midnight Monday night, the 26th, though a mask mandate was ordered until 12:01 a.m. on the 1st of May. The mandate was simple. If you leave the house, wear a mask. One other way we've been lucky is that mask wearing hasn't become a political issue, unlike in other countries, and the number of people who kick up a fuss have been minimal, at least until this week. Our entitled woman, being of ripe old age of 56, decided the mandate applied only to others, not herself. She decided to go to the busiest area of the city on Sunday afternoon maskless, which attracted the attention of the local constabulary. They asked her politely at first to wear a mask, even provided one for her, but her response was to throw it back at them, repeatedly. Realizing being nice isn't working, they issued her a move-on order, which is basically a citation firing her for her refusal and ordering her to go home. If you think she contritely accepted her mistake, apologized and left, you don't know Karens. She decided the best thing to do was to tear it up and throw it away, which earned her a criminal record, being charged with failing to obey an order given by an officer and obstruction. This apparently wasn't good enough for her. She was seen in the same area 2 days later again maskless. She once again threw the proffered mask at the police multiple times, at which point the police decided enough was enough. She was given another obstruction charge, arrested, and had to face court, where she was denied bail and is currently in prison waiting for her trial date in June. Context: I live in the UK, and this happened when I was 18, fresh out of college in 2006. I used to work at a nightclub, and our uniform consisted of black trousers, a black t-shirt with the nightclub's logo on the front, and the name in big, bold letters on the back, black shoes and socks, and a black fleece with a big logo on the back. Across from us was a superstore which opened up early in the morning, and I usually stopped by on my way for the morning shift to restock the 3 bars inside the nightclub for the upcoming night. Their uniform is similar to ours, and I often got stopped briefly because some people thought I was a staff member before realizing their mistake, apologizing, and then going off to find an actual member of staff. So I was used to it and often laughed about it with the other person if I saw them again. I would also help out anyone who was polite and asked for help. The story: I start my shifts at 11 a.m. and I usually stop by the superstore to pick up some lunch to eat during my 15-minute break at the nightclub. I get to the store, and as I'm walking through the store, I see the cleaner who I usually work with while stocking the bars and decide to go over and have a chat. As we walked around the store, I helped grab things off the top shelves for her, and she thanked me. My coworker is this really nice old lady, and I often called her Grams as a nickname. Now, Grams was a former martial arts instructor but left a few years prior due to breaking her hip, but she wasn't someone to mess with. I knew this from personally seeing her flip a guy 3 times her size on his butt, because he was, shoplifting at the superstore we were at. Everyone loved her. This is really relevant later. So I say goodbye as it's now 10:30 and I don't want to be late. Grams apparently had the day off, so it will be the rare day I worked alone with a jerk of the nightclub and was not looking forward to it. As I was making my way to the sandwich aisle, I heard it. The dreaded sound of self-entitlement. I knew it well, as I constantly dealt with this type and knew if I turned around, it was all over. So I did the smart thing and ignored it, making my way towards the delicious smell of sandwiches. This, my friends, is mistake number 1. Excuse me. I feel a disturbance in the force and try to ignore it, but a sharp thwack to the back of my leg brings me around. When I faced the source of the disturbance I felt, and there, before me, was a troll. Or so it looked like at first. Now, I don't like confrontation, I tend to try and avoid it if possible, and at the time the stress of work had steadily piled on me. And I was currently on medication for anxiety. It was nowhere near as bad as it is now, but I still tried my best to stay out of these type of situations. But I was trapped. Can I do something for you? I asked. She looked at me with an indignant smirk that immediately made me want to run away, but to my left was a rather tall, bulky, middle-aged man blocking my escape, as to my right was a display counter, as well as behind me. I was cornered. With a big grin on her face, the entitled woman spoke to me in a condescending tone. I saw you help another lady earlier with her shopping. I would like you to go fetch this list for me. She thrust a small piece of paper at me with handwriting so bad that I couldn't even read it, and since I too had really bad handwriting, that was saying something. Oh, but I don't work here. I work… She cuts me off. Don't lie, young man. I saw you helping that lady with all her shopping, and you're in uniform. So there. I look at myself, and yes, I'm in my uniform, but I'm wearing my fleece, which clearly has a nightclub's logo printed on the back, large enough you can't even mistake it, even if you're legally blind. No, ma'am. You're… At this point, I get a shove from the bulky guy next to me. Obviously, he was her dumb, entitled son. Stop lying to my mother, you jerk, and go get our stuff. But sir, I'm not lying. I don't want your excuses. I want my mother's shopping. This time he goes to grab me when a small, very recognizable hand grabs his wrists. Excuse me? But why are you harassing my grandson? Graham still him. I was shocked she actually called me her grandson, but was grateful for the save anyway. Some entitled son tells her, What are you talking about, you senile old fool? This person is an employee and you are lying to cover for him. This guy had just messed up big time. Gramps was a nice person, really nice if you stayed on her good side. But cross that line, push the wrong button, say the wrong thing, and you were done for. Gramps twists the guy's arm behind his back and begins escorting him to the front of the store with his entitled mother and me in tow. When we were 6 feet from where the security guards were stationed, he continued to call Gramps every name under the sun. "Get off me, you crazy old coon!" I could physically hear Gramps' patient snap. What happened next was not what this guy had been expected. Gramps let him go. "Finally, I am going to." He never finished this sentence as Gramps' small fist was now buried deep in the jerk's stomach. "Told you, not someone you should mess with." She then floored the guy, flipping him by his arm onto his back, then flipping him over onto his protruding stomach before twisting his arms behind his back and hog-tying him with some rope she had just purchased. And to finish it off, shoved an apple into the guy's mouth. Gramps then looked to the now not so entitled old lady. She tells her, "You and your pig-headed son can take a hike, and if I ever see you here again or messing with my darling grandson again, just know I'm prepared to go to jail." I was stunned. My Gramps called over 2 workers, asked them to pick the guy up, and I kid you not, she pulled over an empty shopping cart and had them put the guy in it, then shoved him out the door to the horror and dismay of the not-so-entitled old lady who ran after him. Not surprisingly, the police were called. I was late to work after giving a statement, and Gramps was issued with a fine and had a court a month later. But due to her age, was only given another fine which she paid, and 250 hours of unpaid community service. When I asked her later why she did all that just for me, her response was something I still tear up about. "Because you remind me of my late son, who I really never got to spend time with. And maybe it's because seeing him and you, I just wanted to spoil you a little. I love you, Panda, like a son, so don't ever lose that kindness of yours." Gramps passed away a year later. I attended her funeral and even told the story when I was asked if there was anyone who wanted to say a few words. Rest in peace, Gramps, my #1 hero. Think this goes here, as he got a hefty fine and jail time, so on to the story. After a baseball game, we stop in a McDonald's to get some food. We get our food and get into my dad's truck, and the Indian guy pulls in next to us and throws his door open, denting my dad's car. Well, my dad fixes dents for a living, so no big deal really, except this guy kept trying to blame the wind. They start arguing, and this guy just, well, not let my dad just say, "Just give me $60 for my time and I'll fix it myself." And he begins swearing at me and my brother, very young and not involved at all. And my dad damn near starts a fight with this guy, and he shouts, "Call the cops, they will defend me." So my dad does. Fast forward 15 minutes and an unmarked cop car pulls in. One cop gets out, starts asking questions. He gets both sides and asks me and my brother for what happened. We told him everything, and he started writing this guy a ticket. The Indian guy says, "I hate cops," and gives the cop the finger. My dad tells the cop, but he didn't see it, so no crime. Except the second cop who saw it all steps out, cuffs out to put on this guy, and the Indian dude tries to pull away and run. And all 3 large dudes grab his scrawny punk crap and cuff him. They send my dad on his way, and as we pull out, in the rear seat of the Indian dude's car, I see balloons. For a girl's 3rd birthday. My dad fixed the dent himself. It would have cost $100 for anyone else. The Indian got booked for some stuff regarding minors, resisting arrest, and a few others. Probably a couple days in the slammer and a good couple $100 in fines. Edit. When he was getting ticketed, he apparently made some kind of threat towards the officer citing him and my father and I, thereby making his crime much more punishable. I, 20 female, was adopted as an infant. I never met my biological father or mother, but knew I was adopted from day one. I also know that my bio mom was 15 when she had me and my bio dad was in his 20s. My parents have a biological daughter, my sister 25 female, who's in grad school and has student debt, whereas I got full right to do my undergrad. This year I took a DNA test to learn about what cultures I belong to and genetics I have, also to screen out any genetics diseases. I discovered that I'm predisposed to certain allergies I didn't know about, and I also discovered several matches. And when I saw the last name, I didn't think anything of it. However, a few weeks ago, I received a phone call from a family law office asking if I was who I claimed to be, and we spoke for a little bit. I was asked to join a Zoom meeting later on, and when I did, I saw my biological grandmother for the first time. I started dwelling up, she and I have the same color eyes, and I have her nose. I didn't know how cathartic seeing somebody who resembled you felt, and I really started crying. We chatted for a few minutes before getting down to business. I was shown legal credentials proving this was a real attorney's office, and I was asked to show some photo ID. I asked what was going on when my grandmother told me the truth. My bio dad is a trust fund baby, and he's a rich. As a middle-class person, this was a huge shock. After my bio dad found out that he had a kid and told nobody about me, they were furious. My grandmother wants to change over my bio dad's trust to me. I won't say how much for privacy reasons, but I could live on it for the rest of my life, donate to charity every year and still have a lot left over. It's major screw you money. My bio grandmother also says that because she has funds for her other grandchildren, I would receive one of those in addition to my bio dad's trust. She told me my bio dad is single and it won't affect anyone but him. She also said she would want to find my bio mom to compensate her as well. The lawyer told me that I should obtain a family law attorney and that my bio family will pay for them so I could obtain what my grandmother calls the money I deserve. I obtained 2 attorneys, 1 family and 1 estate, and they are walking me through the process of obtaining the funds. I told my family about it and they talked about how my sister could finally be a professional student and how their mortgage could be paid off. When I told them how the fund works, given an allowance every month instead of being a free-for-all, their tune changed. They said I'm their family and should refuse the funds out of principle. I really want to accept the fund and meet and reconnect with my biological family, but I don't want to lose my family while making that decision. So would I be the jerk if I accepted this money from my biological family? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, you're not the jerk. So it was okay to have the money when they could take it from you, but not when it could just help you. Another commenter says, not the jerk. Accept the money and meet your biological family. The ones who clearly want to build a relationship with you at least, and be careful with a bio dad since he might be dangerous. As for your family, they changed their tone immediately after you told them you couldn't pay off their debt. It sounds like they only don't want you to accept the money because they can get access to it. Third commenter goes with, not the jerk. Forget about the money for a second, you are being offered an opportunity to get to know your grandparents, and that's the important thing here. Take it with both hands and accept them into your life, it's your right. As for the cash right now, your adoptive family probably has no idea how to process this news, so right now their mouths are engaging without the brain being in gear. If the entitlement carries on, be polite and set some boundaries, just remember, they too are your family. Remember, in life, money is not the goal, it's just a way to keep a score.